got me moving. How hard it is to get me move? That's got a groove. That's nice. Gotta be careful, I hurt my neck. Got a really, really nice tone. It's got like this jazzy nasal to it, but it's not overly strident. It's like twang, not nasality. Enemy come, but like that's like a bad Eddie Vedder, I guess. This is the real stuff. Ooh, okay. You gotta love a choir where every singer's actually got a good voice, you know? Karen Clark Sheary. Difference in vocal quality. She's like reading the music there. That's what she's looking at. There's music down in front of her. She's zooming in on that. She's like, okay. Her runs are so good. Her voice is so light, yet not lacking power at all. And you hear Lashun coming in. That's right. The husky, that sound, that bottom coming in. I think Lashun was like, hold on. I see you reading that music. Hold on, we need to get you away from the page because you're caged. So this is where, that's right. We're getting away from the page. No pun intended. Now the jam session starts. Now they're gonna jam. Oh my God. They're gonna get into some crazy techniques here too. So the posture is incredible. It has to be incredible because with these growls are so demanding physically, and they'll cause harm if you don't do them well. Gospel isn't bad for you. It's not bad for your voice. It's bad for you if you're bad. First cause of vocal injury, the number one cause, is belting. Second is opera, and you gotta figure this. Opera singers tend to be trained. So if like, and they spend a lot of time training. So how many of those vocal injuries of belting, like, where are the demographics? I bet you a lot of it doesn't come from gospel. I bet it's a lot of people who are not in a community, not surrounded by people who are doing it in a really healthy way, where people have been doing it since they're, in their 40s, and they're doing it well, they're in their 50s, the 60s, 70s. It's such a reliable technique, and it can be dangerous, but only if you're bad. And the trick to that, and the way to keep yourself safe, is this support, is this sort of this posture that they're doing. But what is support? That word is thrown around so often to the point where it's kind of lost any meaning. No one ever qualifies what that means. Let's talk about it. So these are the intercostal muscles, okay? Intercostal muscles are in between the rib cage. And what that does is, if you can expand them like this, you expand your torso in general. And that matters because the lungs are basically just a plastic bag that are glued onto your torso, right? When we talk about the diaphragm, what is the diaphragm? The diaphragm is underneath the rib cage, right around that solar plexus area, right around here, right? So the diaphragm contracts, goes down here, and then the lungs fill up with air. But how do they fill up? Well, it's just nature abhors a vacuum. They don't have structure of their own. So there's all like liquid sealant, there's open up, and the boop. Air coming in. The problem is that when you're dealing with these itty bitty little things called vocal folds, very tiny. That's a lot of muscle, right? We're looking at a lot of muscle here. These vocal folds are about the size of a nickel. These are men's vocal folds, okay? What they're doing is they're masterfully navigating, not putting a lot of breath behind it, which keeps the folds thin, which makes them not have a lot of contact. How do I know this? How do I know that when you use less air, the folds are thinner? Because of what's called the Bernoulli effect. Here's some papers, right? I'm not pushing these things together. I blow air through and they come together. That's how it works. So that's how the vocal folds work. That's what we're watching in real time here. The less air you use, the more gently they come together. There's another way to show you that this is happening. You do what's called an aspirate gradual. As I stop using a lot of breath, you get this whispery, airy quality right around here. What happens is the reason why things get louder when you sing with more air is because the folds get thicker, so more pressure builds up. It's called sound pressure level. But that's not what makes distortion really loud. Distortion adds a bunch of what we call upper partials. Human ear is tuned in such a way that we hear higher frequencies as being louder. Why do we do this? Because when babies would scream, we would be able to hear it better. Those who evolved and survived were those who heard their offspring crying. So we are programmed, we're wired to hear higher frequencies a lot more clearly. Going a lot at you, but this is why it matters. When you hear distortion, you hear loud, you hear volume, you hear chaos, but what you're actually getting from that singer is precision. This right here is just me speaking normally, and I'm just gonna, you got to act like you know, now I'm gonna add distortion, you're not gonna hear it, thank God, like you know. So when I add distortion through electronic means, you see that peak? This is an EQ, and the higher the frequencies are, they're on the right-hand side. So when I add that overdrive, right, you see it. I can do that with my voice. How? Glad you asked. This right here are the vocal folds. However, right over here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, it's really tiny, but to the top right diagonally and top left diagonally, we have the arytenoid cartilage, okay? Well, these muscles next to the cartilage are called the aryepiglottic folds. So what we can do is we can contract the aryepiglottic folds, which are slanted like this, and by contracting them, we bring the arytenoid cartilage up, and then we put our tongue back just a little bit, and that brings the epiglottis down and back. By combining those two things, we can rattle and create distortion by having these arytenoid cartilage rattle against the epiglottis. No, 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 no. That's how quietly I'm doing that. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. A little nasality, get even more twang, brightness in that. This might sound cacophonous, these two marvelous singers, but it couldn't be more precise. It couldn't be more precise. This is exact. They're so good at bringing it in and out. That's the thing. I have on and off. I don't have that dial. They have a dial. Like a surgeon. I love how she does it through the vowel. Ah! I can't even do that on the ass. So forward at all. Listen, you know this music is good when the whitest person on the internet is like actually like, oh yeah. I think now comes one of my favorite parts here. You're gonna love this. Mic toss between the Pace sisters. Spoil it, but who cares? You can't spoil it. You can't possibly spoil it. It's too good.
I like you now.
We're gonna hear a totally different use for the areopaglottic folds here. This is what we call twang. Now you're going to see this. This is going to be important. Is you're going to want to observe the posture. Her inhales, like her torso is really collapsed. The inhales are not that big. That's because when you contract those areopaglottic folds, what you're doing is you're creating this difficult situation for excess breath pressure. So instead of managing your exhale by expanding as much as you can also just take a smaller inhale, and that does the same thing. Precision. It doesn't sound like it, but it's precise. I'm excited for Durandus. Let's go Durandus. What I love here is she's playing with the vowels here. The jaws jutted forward to like to offset some of those high frequencies. That's that marvelous musical instinct to sing harmony over that. So good. Starts with that like little quarter tone, little sass.
Oh, my mother.
Mother.
Oh, my mother, my mother, my mother, my mother, my mother, do you know?
Great musical instincts, and just like the runs are interesting from like.
Mother, do you know? Mother, do you know?
I wish I had better like jazz musicianship chops, because like these harmonies and their notes, what they're choosing to land on, are not necessarily traditional chord tones. These are like E flats and F sharps. Just casual. Lashun has such a pretty sound. It's like no one's got an unattractive sound here, but you hear Lashun after everyone else. You're like, wow, that's a special sound. I love all these singers. They're all extraordinary. Like I'm gonna be biased towards that lush sound because, like, you know, I'm a snob.